Good morning, guys. My name is Rudo, and let's quickly talk about Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame. So, what was said yesterday, and it's all in light of what I'm trying to get at. How deep will the retrace be? Because we're below our buy zone, and is there any hope for continuation? I think that's the two things that I think's on everybody's mind. So it's worth looking at that. So let's quickly have a look at what was said yesterday. So from a 4-hour time period, and this is the tricky thing, keeping the time period always in the back of your head. When we bring in our RSI, we had bearish divergence. So you can see it kept on creeping up the divergences there. And the argument was that what we can do is we can use this pivotal support area between the 4-hour divergence as well as the higher time frame divergence that we have. Okay, higher high in price at that stage. Sorry, let's just do that. Higher high in price, which is no longer there. Okay, so that has been removed. And then we can use this momentum, this continuation of momentum. We can use 7K as a buy zone. So what happened yesterday, diving into that thing, zooming in on that, you guys can see 107K when we got there the first time, 105K. It had a little bit of a rally, and that was just after the YouTube. So I explained this at around 10 a.m. So it was here. So we went there, got a nice reaction, and didn't make a higher high. And from that point onwards, we went into the zone where I said everybody's promises to sell would be. So anybody that's buying in on the momentum or the continuation of Bitcoin going into all-time highs, how they would protect themselves is through a stop loss. So, and that is another word of just saying a promise to sell. That's it. That's all. They're just promising to sell if it gets there. So from that point onwards, you can see that as they got unsure, some got out, and most of them hit their promises to sell, their stops. So now that we have that idea and it played out in the bearish context of things, and that's what makes it so hard looking at a small time frame analysis. These analysis only remain valid for a few hours when you're looking at a 15-minute. I think it's time to just scratch all this real quick, okay, and take a new, fresh look at what Bitcoin can do for us today, in the pursuit to try and answer exactly what I'm saying in the headline. How deep will the retrace be? Okay, so if we look at the 4-hour time frame, I think that's still a really good time frame for us. From a Bitcoin point of view, and it's easy to just do this and say, okay, what are we doing? We're making higher highs, and we are not making realistically higher lows, because we came from a low, made a high, made a low, made a higher high. But momentum is clearly lost at this moment, because if we're rejecting at a slightly higher level, it raises the question, why? Because some things that go up, go up. It's simple as that. And things that don't want to go up, they start doing this. They create a complacency within price action. Okay, so that is something to keep in the back of your head. The fact that we went slightly higher yesterday and then back in this area. Okay, so what would be the important, and let's remove that, important levels that you need to watch? Okay, so let's mark them out real quick. I'm going to keep it on the line tool. So clearly we rejected aggressively there the first time round. Okay, and we've been trying to turn that into support for forever. So $92,000 is still a critical support level, which means from a HODL point of view, investment point of view, and so forth, anything goes from where we are all the way back down to 92. So your long-term outlook for Bitcoin being bullish is still okay, as long as we stay above that level. Okay, now zooming in to try and look at more trading point of view, we can start saying to ourselves, okay, what else did we have? We started creating divergence on these highs each time, okay? And what the market did is it kind of fought the bearish notions of divergence and made yet another higher high, with that instance a weak bearish divergence on the RSI, meaning we kind of went higher, and then you need to really zoom and almost manipulate the screen to see the divergence in that area. So for me, that is still a critical area. So you can ask yourself, what makes this critical? And for me, it's simple. It's a manipulation of the move. Okay, it's just money pushing the price up, trying to get more liquidity to get out. Because immediately from that point onwards, the liquidity that rushed in there is being used to sell your BTCs, to sell back out. So somebody is, instead of accumulating, is actually selling here. Okay, that's what's happening at this area. Now, if I take that information and start saying, okay, right, if that's the case, where's the critical support resistance levels for those zones? You look at ranges where there's multiple tops and bottoms, tagging in a specific price point. It's fair to assume that you don't have anything here yet because there's no real confluence around the typical areas. So for me, that's then the reasoning. So if I highlight these lines, I think I need to hold in control, highlight these lines, and I make them all now support. Those would be the critical lines that I would just bring my attention to. Okay, we can remove the RSI real quick and we can bring up candles now. So now that we have critical support resistance levels on areas moved in, we can then start looking at this and say, okay, what is this price action? Is it a correction or is it an impulse? Now, a correction is typically when the market is done with a big move and it's reloading either to go further in the direction that created the big move or not. So from a bullish point of view, the easiest way to just explain this to you guys is when you have a wave and the market is going up, these kind of waves, they would be called impulses. And these kind of waves, they would be called corrections. Okay, so the market impulses in a direction, becomes impulsive, very low overlapping amount of candles, and then when it's correcting, the market's unsure. It's not the same thing. So you'll see a lack of confidence in this area and a lot of confidence, but very few participants because people are normally caught off guard when it impulses. And the most liquidity from the losing side of the market, the general public, the 95%, they normally act in this area here. So it's just worth noting that. Okay, so it's a fair question to ask yourself: are we impulsing or are we correcting? Because you kind of want to define where you are within the market structure. Okay, so looking at this, another way that you can identify, or the way that you identify whether that's an impulse, is the following things. Okay, you want to see a sea of blend of this, a sea of the same color candles. Okay, we do have that with very few candles in the opposing direction. One. Okay. Then you want to see flat bottoms in the direction of the impulse. Okay. So you see there's a very little amount of these kind of candles. Okay. 1, 2, that's it. The rest is all relatively flat. So if you're impulsing, meaning when the candle opens, there's very few overlap and then the market keeps on moving. Okay. That's it. And that's almost as simple. You just need to look at those two things and you will have enough of an idea. But the third thing that I would want to add to this is your candles in the direction of the trend should always be bigger than the corrective candles. Meaning, if I have one, let's mark them out. One, let's use this tool. Can I just make the screen look a little neater? If I have 1, 2, 3 blue candles, okay. The question is the average size of this candle bigger than the retracing candles? Yes, okay. They're all bigger than the retracing candles. So the impulse is to the upside. That's where the strength is. And you can see that remains. The candles are bigger, but only once the white candles start becoming bigger than the average blue candle. That's typically when you know the trend is changing. Meaning you can have a look at this. The amount of strength you had on the bullish side versus the amount of strength you had on the bearish side is overwhelming. And that basically is what the RSI is pointing out when it's showing you this. Okay, it's a mathematical way of determining exactly just this is what I'm saying to you. Okay, so when there's a lot more momentum on the bearish side, the RSI creeps over to this area. And typically it says when there's so much imbalance or over or what's the real word I'm looking for? Yeah, I would say the market is so unfairly weighted into one direction. You reach that point where the RSI says it's overbought or oversold. And that's basically what it's trying to achieve here with the mathematics behind that. Okay, so here we are now. So is this an impulse? For all objective purposes, if I'm explaining this way, yes, Bitcoin is impulsing. So it still means that you have to remain bullish. But now this brings me to the part of the headline. How deep will the retrace go, though? Okay. And this is where it becomes really tricky. So let's put the fib on, a standard fib. I'm just going to put a standard Fibonacci level on. Now, Fibonacci is simple. It's the ratio of all things. for the same rule of what gets defined by our human psychology as beautiful, the same rules define what is a good deal, what is a bad deal, and how much discount is enough to call it a discount. Those ratios are hardwired in us on a subconscious level, and that's what the Fibonacci numbers is in the end of the day. So it's just a way of us trying to define where the discounts are going to be. So typically what we would say is, if the discount is 23%, okay, you have the ability to expect that the move is going to continue onwards on the retraces. So let's move it to any of these retraces. We're staying above 23%. We're not closing. There's no handshaking there saying that it's over. So you expect more move. Okay, move it to that high. Expect more move. But as soon as you start moving below the 23.6, like we did yesterday after the buy, that means now we need to expect a retrace. The market needs to go discount. And it means that we are setting up for a corrective wave. Now, let's define the corrective wave real quick, guys. Corrective wave. The white candles, or the bearish candles in this instance, will be bigger than the bullish candles leading up to it. Okay. And you will have a situation where the bottoms on the corrective candles will be flat. And there will be a mixed breed of candles. So where you had an impulse where there was a lot of blue with a very little amount of yellow, corrective is a blend of them. So blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, and this kind, blue, white, blue, white, blue, white. Okay, so there you have that. So that is the way that you can identify corrective wave. So where we're at now is we're starting to do just that. We're starting to do that. Still early days. So the best bet that I would say is, from a statistical point of view then, because we're in a corrective wave, this is a first wave trying to leave the range which is defined by Bitcoin hitting 100K psychological resistance. It means that we can go as low as the 618, the 782 even, and that won't, or 786, and that won't necessarily be a bad thing, okay? Because the deeper the retrace, sometimes the more explosive the next move will be. Okay, good example of that is, let me zoom out. Let's go to the last time we had an insane deep retrace after a low. Okay, there. So what did we do? We had a big impulse. We had a nice move. We had a completion of the event, and the retrace was quite deep and aggressive. Okay, retrace, deep and aggressive. So retrace, deep and aggressive. So if we have a deep and aggressive retrace, what will happen is the market will respond aggressively into that direction. So for me, I'm looking at it and I'm almost wishing upon the market a little bit more doom and pain, because if we can get that, we will have a big buyout momentum that will actually shoot us clear from the 100K range, because it's clearly at this stage acting as a major psychological barrier for Bitcoin. Okay, so there you have it. So how low can it then go? Well, statistically, you need to be prepared for any one of these levels, the 38.2 where it's at now, 618, and that's 786. Okay, but now there's a few little tricks that we can do. We can scale this up in a different time frame and start looking at areas where candles create certain patterns for us, candle-related patterns, to try and see if we can find a different buy zone, or a different more confluence around that level. Okay, so we're looking at the weekly time frame. We're not getting much. Okay, but what do we know from a weekly perspective? We will have an overlap. So let's use this FIB real quick, move it in on the previous week, and where would that overlap be? Okay, so from a weekly point of view, we're looking at 100K to 96. Okay. From a daily point of view, if you look at previous day, we've already engulfed that in previous moves. So there's not a lot that we can figure out from that point. And then we've now done the 4-hour analysis. Now let's go over to the 1-hour analysis and see if we can see any breakouts. Okay, so there we had a nice breakout. There we had a nice breakout. So anywhere between these two breakouts, one would argue, is where the manipulation occurred. So I'm just going to take the fib away so the screen is nice and clean. That's the area where the manipulation occurred that initiated this price drive. Okay. So for me, from a trading point of view, if I'm saying, okay, 4-hour time frame, I'm bullish and I'm expecting more, these demand zones between these two levels there, these demand zones would be the area where whatever whale is driving this momentum, or consortium or group of whales, or whatever the case might be, the composite man, the other guy on the other side of the screen that's trading against you, that guy that frustrates you. This is the area where, if he wants to remain bullish, as his first point of attack to continue on driving price. Okay, so how low can it go? 99 to 95. Okay, there you have it. Okay, so how do you trade that though? It's a completely different animal, because if you look at this from a 15-minute time frame, you now need to look for some bearish argument to short this all the way to that area there. And what retail typically will do is they will be doing this, drawing a line like that, and when we're at the top of the line, you try and sell. Now, I always say this, as the market goes, everybody gets to be right occasionally, so they can be wrong consistently. So even on Ethereum analysis, I'm playing off the base that, you know, retail is going to be right at some stage. Okay, so from a 4-hour point of view for Ethereum, we've been selling, and I'm expecting the supply wave to drive price into a buy zone for me there at around $3,000 for Ethereum. Okay, so I'm expecting exactly the same for BTC. Okay, that's it. Simple as that. All this chop, I don't really see any reason for price to want to move in above this area. But this is your thesis for being bearish. Okay, you can try and hit the short at 100. 102, 103, try and drive this down to about 97 max, and then from that point onwards, we're still bullish as hell on the higher time frames. Okay, over to your comments. Let's quickly have a look at what you guys are saying. Yuto is asking about SUI. Yuto, in this afternoon's HODL report, we will definitely look into that in greater detail, so we can do that. So in short, SUI, from where I'm at right now, looking at it briefly, it's bullish. There's nothing wrong with it. I explained this thing's going to retrace all the way back down there and still be okay, continue on a little bit higher. Now, I, for some apparent reason, accidentally changed the view template. So let's just go there. And that will bring that back, so at least it's there. So prepare for a little bit more discount on SUI, but it's all good still yet, okay? Alt season is in the making. Let's see what else we have. Solana is almost at the 0.618. Now, Solana did amazing things during this Trump pump. Okay, let's quickly bring up Solana real quick. Okay. Amazing things during this Trump pump. But for me, the biggest thing now is, if you look at this is the divergence, okay? And from that time frame, if I do this analysis, just adjust it, it's a perfect sell, okay? So what do I want to see Solana? Well, the problem is Solana is already below this 257 area. So it could be that from a market point of view, Solana, if it goes and it falls below 220, is going to be bearish. Now, this is really higher time frame, and the same argument is, if it's so fast, it typically won't last. Okay, so when you have these fast moves, it gives it back. It's just the nature of the market. So I'll be patient with Solana. It had a nice blow off or a nice push to the upside, and a consolidation at these areas would be where I would want to consider before I'm thinking about buying Solana. Okay, more on this and the other coins as we go through, guys. We had a really good run on long-term investment options now. I mean, buy, we had the sell. We're in the test area of the buy zone for Ethereum. We had the sell, we had the buy for Cardano. It's holding its momentums, creating a pennant. I'm rather bullish on Cardano rather than on Solana. And so forth. So there's a lot of these coins that we'll be working through during this afternoon stream. So make sure to tune in. Stuff like Comp is holding strong in the buy zone, where I want to see this continue onwards. Stuff like Filecoin, let's just quickly load Filecoin. Come on, 1, 2, 3, load. It's sitting in the action zone. So buy zone, if you were underwater from the previous buys, you get out, you buy back. You know, that's the action zone. Support turn to resistance, bullish on this, thinking 10,000, 9,000% on Filecoin, and so forth. So everything does look really good for me at this stage. Just the short-term outlook is a little choppy. Okay. Arweave, we can maybe have a look at Arweave. I've actually been keeping an eye on that a little bit longer, but yeah, this stream's already 20 minutes long. The intent was always to make it a 5-minute to a 6-minute stream, so I do apologize for that. Now, guys, if you want to trade or enjoy, just trade with me. What you can do is the video is brought to you by Prime XBT. You can use the link in the video description, and then you can head over to the Discord, And you can use if you open your Prime account, you can actually get access to my buddy indicator. Now, let's just quickly have a look at the buddy indicator. It basically does all these analysis that I'm doing for you on the basis that it's got 4 different strategies built into it that is printing signals on the screen, and a few other that is running in the background. So let's hide them all and let me just explain the reasoning behind this. Okay, simple. If the market goes up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these highs will normally have strong bullish divergence. So these will be your S01 strategies, trying to pick a top. These lows will have hidden bullish divergence, S04, trying to continue with the current trend. Okay. And then what you will have is when you're trying to create a top like this, the S01 will have an SO2 strategy, meaning that there will normally be secondary tests of these levels before we sell off. And the same is going to happen there and there. And the same will happen here from a bullish point of view. So the buddy indicator alerts you when there's a potential of a top. It alerts you when there's a confirmation of a test of a top or a test of a top being created. It alerts you when there's a continuation of the larger waves, and it keeps on doing that from a bullish and a bearish perspective. Okay, so it makes trading and following where we are within the market conditions quite easy. Okay, and that indicator is not available. You can't go and look at it. You can't go and browse it. You have to get it through Discord. Okay, and that is what the strategy is on about. In addition to this, it has a color fill as well to try and help you understand where we are within the momentum of the market. And that's it. So there you have it now, nicely. So let's go to a slower time frame, so I can just show you this in effect in a little bit of a bigger picture. Okay, so what are we doing? We're reaching a top. Your SO1s are coming in. Okay, and I didn't talk about the SO3s. When you have that sell-off, that change of the market, your SO3 starts kicking in. Okay, SO4s starts giving you the bottoms. SO4s, bottoms for continuation from a bearish point of view. So all these different strategies works. And you might see that yours might look a little different than mine for some cases. It uses the candles on your exchange to create these strategies. So just remember that. Okay. Then there's another question here. Main question. Do you think we'll have an alt season? Yes. I do believe that we're going to have an alt season. The problem with that is that it's all dependent on Ethereum. And Ethereum, as you can see, still has a lot of selling pressure on it. Okay. So it went into a long-term buy zone. I mean, this is a trader buy zone. This is the buy zone I shared with you guys on this channel. If you watch the videos regularly, you will be in the know. So everything is there. That buy zone has been drawn since forever. Okay. And so it's doing what it's supposed to do. But like everybody in the beginning of the bull market said, yeah, but Solana is the new alt season indicator. It clearly isn't, because if it was, the alts would be performing well. And the only thing that has not been performing well is Ethereum still. So my question is, and my last little hope on your question is, will there be an alt season? Yes. Will Ethereum break out? That's the big thing. When I have that answer and that confirmation that ETH does now start going ballistic, okay, meaning go to about $9,000. That's the extreme, I think, for this bull market. It's going to excite and ignite the additional alts, and the rest will kick up. Okay, that's my opinion on that. More on that will be in this afternoon stream. So thanks for the good question. Thanks for the guys joining in live and all the regular viewers. I do appreciate each and every one of you guys. See you in the later stream. And as always, keep hustling, my friends.
I'll keep hustling.
Subscribe now.